studying for the LSAT for a while now, more than like 10 months, and I've taken it twice thus far. My very first test, I made a 155, well, my practice test. On the actual test, I scored like a 159, and then I also scored a 158. So I just kind of feel like I've been studying for a while, and I'm like still in that same score range. So that's why when I read about your program, it really resonated with me because I'm like, hey, that's just like me. So I'm trying to score significantly higher. So yeah.
Of course. Well, I'm glad to do whatever I can to help you get there. I know that you're aiming for a 170 plus and you're looking to balance your LSAT prep with these pre-existing obligations that you have. So tell me a little bit about those obligations and how much time you think you might have per week to devote to this.
Absolutely. So I'm currently in grad school. I'm getting my master's at Columbia. And so it's a lot. So initially I would wanted to start studying more because I was in undergrad in May. And so I had been studying and I took the LSAT during that period of time. And that was prior to getting into grad school. And so I had to make a significant move. And so I like transitioned from my hometown to the city, New York City. And so it's been a lot. And so it's also like after taking it two times, I don't know if I like experienced kind of burnout from it because I was just like, okay, I'm just not, I wasn't really looking forward to studying again or more for the test. And so it's like now I'm like trying to get back into the groove of studying and being consistent in my preparation for the test.
Sure, sure. You're definitely balancing it with grad school, moving to a new place can definitely be a challenge. So just acknowledge where you are and recognize that it may take longer than it would take someone who didn't have those obligations or didn't have that kind of move on their plate. Are you looking to take the January LSAT, the February LSAT? What are you thinking?
So I'm not going to apply to law school until the next year. So I think I still have a pretty good amount of time. So probably next summer,
Nice.
early next summer. So I still have I think I have time, but it's like it creeps up on you. So I just wanted to kind of get back into the groove of things.
Sure, sure. Well, that's plenty of time to make literally anything happen. If you've got 6+ months to devote to this, given what you've done to this point, there's a lot that we can achieve together. What would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing right now in terms of a particular section or a particular question type?
Absolutely. So my biggest areas of concern are like the reading comp section and the logical reasoning section, well, previously. So I think I got a pretty good grasp on the logic games. But when it comes to like the logical reasoning and the reading comp, I just feel like in both of those sections, I haven't like significantly seen an increase when it comes to, I don't know, like the questions within those sections. Cause like with reading comp, one of the biggest things for me is time. Cause it's like, and I noticed with like in the recordings, they spoke on not just skimming the passages, because I think at one point, because of time restraints, I would like start skimming and then it would be like, oh, okay, I really don't know what the material is. So then would have to go back and reread those sections. And then with logical reasoning, I don't know, I felt as though I was getting the answers right, but I wasn't. So I think and like I think the lessons I've been watching so far have been really helpful when they detail going back and reviewing those problems that you missed, because I think I go back and I look over them and I'm like, oh, okay, I missed that one, but I don't think I really gained a true understanding as to why I missed those questions.
Right, right. The review process is key. And just as you want to review logical reasoning in depth using the Socratic review method, same applies to reading comprehension, breaking down the passage, as well as breaking down the tempting wrong answers and unappealing right answers. You're right. It's not about skimming. It's about reading for structure, understanding the role that each sentence plays in the passage as a whole. So you'll see my deep dive videos in the course. I really aim to dissect the entire passage, breaking it down in language as simply as possible. And so during your review, you want to implement the same strategy on any passages that give you trouble. And of course, it's great to watch the course videos to see how I go about it or how someone else goes about it. But ultimately, this is meant to simply inform the studying that you do on your own between the weekly classes.
Absolutely. I agree.
Do you have any kind of mistake log or mistake journal where you document your review?
No, I don't. And for me, I think that's going to be very helpful because as I previously mentioned, I don't know why, like prior to like being like watching the videos and being told, hey, go back and like specifically try to understand why you missed those questions. I really don't think I did. And for me, that was very interesting because I have like gone through a number of like various materials and whatnot. And so my goal is to really start doing that. in the
Yeah,
future.
great. Please do. You have a lot of time to execute, try things out, figure out what works for you. But it'd be a shame to watch the course videos and see how to review on a handful of passages, but then not make it your own. The whole point here is to make it your own over the course of all of your studying. And you've got several months to make this happen for yourself. So you want to take the example passages that we review in class and then try those same techniques on any one of the other 400 or so reading comp passages or any of the other 5,000 plus logical reasoning questions. There's a lot that you can do to practice and implement this. A lot of exams out there.
So, in your opinion, should I start more? Because I see the study plan, but should I really focus more on those areas, like for example, like logical reasoning and reading comp, and like how would you suggest I break that down? Like, do a mix of both at the same time, or really focus on one area and then go on to the other one once I feel as though I've mastered that area?
Great question. So the study plan section of the course is meant for someone with no prior familiarity, helping them build the foundation from square one. You're, of course, not in that place. You've taken it a couple of times. You've already made a good improvement. So at this point, you already have a sense of what your weak areas are. So I suggest that you spend more time in the workshops and deep dives section of the course with the full length class recordings, because those go into much more detail, giving you my in-depth techniques for each section, each question type with tons of examples, getting really granular into the nitty gritty. And so if you know that reading comp gives you trouble, you might want to review the reading comp classes. If a certain logical reasoning question type gives you trouble, you might want to focus on those. And so your prep could be a mix of attending the live classes, attending the study groups, and then watching the recordings of anything you missed that you think you would find useful. And you can give your prep different ratios or proportions of focus on different sections. Maybe if reading comp gives you the most trouble, you do 50% reading comp, 25 games, 25 reasoning, just as an example. And you could do that as number of hours you devote or number of problems that you complete and review. It's really up to you.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. What other questions do I have? So, I feel as though, I don't know. I guess at this point, and I guess also I really appreciate the motivational videos you've been sending, because I guess at this point it's kind of like starting. I feel as though I'm kind of not starting over, because it's like now I have different tools, but like really just getting back into the swing of things. So for someone who has like kind of taken a break from like really studying for the LSAT and really being in like the LSAT mode, can you like give some like advice or insight as to how to get back into like the swing of things?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And it's like anything else, really. I mean, if you were doing 5-6 hours a day just to make up like what I would say is the upper end, and then you do nothing for a while, you get derailed by school or by the holidays or whatever, and you're getting back into it, you don't necessarily want to make your first day back the full 5 to 6 hours you were at before. That could be really overwhelming. You don't want to burn out. So I'd say start from the smallest possible amount of time or work and then build up slowly. So if you were doing, let's say, 5 hours, you could then start over after a break with 1 hour, then the next day 1.5, the next day 2, and you build it back up gradually so as not to shock your system. Also recognizing that you're not in a hurry here. We're speaking now in early December. You said you're aiming to take the LSAT maybe in the summer and apply next cycle. So you've got a good 6-7 months at least. There's no reason to rush it. You don't want to risk burning out. And since you're still in the middle of your semester right now, if there's a more pressing obligation like a paper that you have due, you can always put the LSAT aside a little bit, knock that paper out, then get back into it. You don't want to do 0 LSAT between now and the end of the semester, but maybe you want to treat the LSAT like a 3-credit class right now. And then once you have winter break, and if you have a lighter semester next semester, if you're taking classes next semester, you could then devote a bit more time to the LSAT and ramp it up as test day gets closer.
Okay. Well, that seems very helpful. So when it comes to making, because I know I've been looking at the study plan, but as you just stated, it is for individuals who are like newer to this process. Like, so to sit down and make a study plan for me, in your opinion, what would that look like? I know you just mentioned, like, for example, maybe like doing a mix of different things, like reading, doing some questions, but because I know I'm speaking to some other students who are also taking the LSAT, they're like, they mix and match things so they don't get bored each day, like during the week. So what would your recommendation be regarding like generating like a concise plan to stick by or a schedule?
Yeah, sure. Well, since you obviously have a lot of familiarity with each section and each question type, mixing's totally fine. You don't need to focus on one thing to really get the basics down as much. If you know that reading comp gives you trouble, then maybe you want an individual study day to be, let's say you pick a particular class video you want to watch on a certain passage. You might attempt that passage on your own, then watch the class video, then review that passage for anything that gave you trouble. Then to mix it up a little bit, you might want to watch a logical reasoning class or drill a couple of logical reasoning questions by type. Or you might want to do a logic games class, complete that game, watch the video, review in depth. You can do a mix each day. It's really just a matter of how much time you have in a given day. If you have 4 hours in a given day, maybe that's one passage, one reading comp class, and one logical reasoning class, and that's it. Another day, it might be a logic game and a logic games class, or it might be an entire logic games section and reviewing all 4 games associated. As you'll find out, and you know this a little bit already, that review takes time, right? You've seen this in the video. Actually doing it yourself without a video takes much, much longer. So recognize that you might not complete as many problems on a given day. You may not have time to do all 3 sections in one day or cover a dozen different question types in one day, but you'll go in far more depth and understand it better.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Those are my questions. Yeah. Do you have any like additional tips or recommendations before we depart?
Yeah, sure. Well, one general comment I have for you is you've got a long time until you take your exam. It's a long road. You don't need to do it all at once. You don't need to achieve your goal score in the next month in order to feel like you're making progress. If you're getting a better understanding, if your score is gradually increasing, that's enough. And it might not increase in a linear fashion, like every week you gain another point. It doesn't work like that. A single insight changes everything. So it might be more like fits and starts, where you plateau for a while, then you have a big breakthrough. But know that if you're putting in the work, you will see the results. And also know that you don't need to take full-length exams yet. I would say spend some more time on doing individual questions by type and doing some individual sections timed just to get that exposure. But you can add the full-length exams into your prep a little bit later. And if you do take one earlier, that's fine. But just know it doesn't reflect your ultimate potential. You've got at least 6-7 months till you take it. You're not in a hurry, and you have plenty of time to improve significantly. And also, you're allowing more time than most people do. So you're maximizing your odds of getting a great result. So I'm excited that you're able to put in this time, that you're willing to do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's super
My pleasure,
helpful.
Tia. Of course, any questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help.
Absolutely. And you have a great day. Thank you again.
You too. My pleasure. Take care. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.